Now, another somewhat of a drama happened in Madrid. Of course, we know that the big Kramnik Jasper match happened in Madrid, but there was also something called the Madrid Chess Festival that immediately started after that match was finished. That is a closed as well as an open event happening at the same time. And of course, Levy is playing in it. Levy is pursuing his grandmaster aspirations, if you might call it them that way, and doing amazingly so in this tournament as of right now. I believe when we're recording this, he just finished his round 7. Um,
But he's
and
he's playing at the moment.
he's playing round 8. Yes, he finished round 7, playing round 8. Right now, he's actually in the lead in the tournament alongside Julio Suarez Gomez, both of them on 5. And I think he needs 6.5 out of 9, if I'm not mistaken, which means he needs 1.5 out of 2 in the last 2 rounds to make a GM norm. Not easy, but definitely doable. I don't know whether it's going to happen because we're recording in the middle of the game. But yes, that's not that's not the well. It's been making news as well. His results, but what made news was this let's call it cheating incident in Madrid. We don't know whether any cheating has actually occurred, but so there's a lot of streamers at this Madrid competition, and a lot of them have their streaming setups in the playing hall. Cameras, laptops connected to cameras to stream live on Twitch, Kick, wherever you are. And apparently, I think one of them had the position of one of the games. I don't know exactly which game. I think it was one of the games from the GM Invitational, not Levy's or anything of that nature. It was a different person. Player B, he's called in the Reddit post that sparked all of these things. But basically, the situation is that people were able to go behind the streaming setup and see the eval of the position of that particular game. Did you see this? And what did you draw out of that? How
Yeah,
crazy is it?
the post itself, I didn't really see, but I heard about it, and yeah, I heard that there was like malbar on the streaming setup or something like that, and then the player was forfeited because they were like glancing at it when they were walking by on 2 occasions or something along those lines. Um, and yeah, I don't know, it just didn't like draw my interest. I like normally I really find this whole cheating stuff fascinating, as you know, but I just didn't care about this one. I think the reason why was because it seemed more like some sort of um,
it's
stupid, careless thing rather than like an actual issue.
it's a complete technical fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like someone. I mean, they shouldn't have had the eval bar. Someone messed up. I don't know who it was. I don't. It was probably just an innocent mistake. And then the other person who was forfeited should have told the arbiter once they found out. That's like their like. Of course, if you happen by it, and you see it for one time by accident. That's not your fault. Then you tell the arbiter, and it gets fixed. If you don't tell the arbiter and then you look at it again, then at that point you are cheating, um, and then you deserve to get forfeited. And that's basically as far as I'm concerned, the whole story. It's like carelessness, maybe on one person's part, um, and potentially cheating. Of course, assuming that I have the details of the case right. If I don't, then who like it's based off a secondhand account, so I really don't know. I mean, maybe the person wasn't really looking at it, but just didn't even notice that there was an eval bar there.
He was
Maybe.
glancing at it. Like there's pictures of him glancing at it and actually just like standing behind it. You know, looking careless. So who knows? Perhaps he didn't think that it's a big thing. Perhaps he couldn't see or he didn't notice the eval bar. But in the end, that player did get forfeited. And the second part of it was that in the meantime, Levy also came out with a certain person and chatted about, I would assume that he chatted about it, and I'm sure he will be clearing the air on everything that just happened. Maybe he did already. I didn't check his last couple of episodes. But Levy, being a part of the organizing committee, probably was told, "Hey, you know, there's an incident happening." This was in the middle of his game, and he went outside with the party and came back in and continued his game. It looks strange, but I don't think there's any foul play in the middle. I think him just being part of the organizing body required him to answer some questions. That's my guess. That's that's what I think happened. So that second part of the post, and you can check the post. We will leave it somewhere in the description. It didn't make that much sense to me. Um,
Yeah, well, I think that it is interesting about like should you forfeit a player who, let's say you're not 100% sure that they saw an eval bar, but there's definitely reason for suspicion. I mean, this is very much a state of mind thing, right? Like you can't know for sure if a person was just glancing carelessly or because it wasn't like their streaming setup, it wasn't their, they didn't put it in place, right?
mhm.
You can't be 100% sure, but it's probably best to be on the safe side uh, and assume that they were acting in a fraudulent manner, I guess you could say. Like they knew that what they were doing wasn't fair, but you can't 100% know it. That's sort of the issue. So and okay, when it comes to Levy, I think that there's one thing that like professional chess players somewhat take for granted, uh, but most chess players don't, which is like for professional chess players, there is a very strict. I'm speaking mostly from my point of view, but of course there are not everyone will have this experience, but there's a very strict set of rules that you go by, and one is that you don't talk to anyone during the round except for the arbiter, if you have some reason to do so, or if you want to offer a draw to your opponent. And you don't say any other words to your opponent except maybe if like, you accidentally kick them under the table and then you just want to apologize.
Correct.
Um,
Yes.
but you don't now I know that this is like very much not followed and for many players. You go to most tournaments, you'll see people talking in between games.
This is
Uh,
mostly open tournaments that you're talking about, because in closed events at your level, from your perspective, most people abide by these rules.
yeah, you'll see some exceptions, but that's very much the case. Like now, if I were to say something like some joke to someone during a round, which has nothing to do with chess, of course that isn't cheating. That's not meant to be cheating, but it's still not allowed. So we just try to avoid that because there's no reason to potentially get yourself in trouble. But I have seen players talk during important events, including closed events, and sometimes talk about chess, which is very much skirting the line, even if they're
That's
not
not
talking
great.
about their own.
That's not great.
It's very much starting to skirt the line of potentially like you shouldn't be talking about anything, but definitely not about chess. Um, and so I think the thing is that in most open tournaments, like the rules are almost entirely not followed. Probably because you can't monitor so many players when you don't have much of a budget, you don't have enough arbiters, and you have too many players. Uh, but there's definitely a very serious cheating problem when it comes to open tournaments, especially in, well, I don't know about most countries, but in the United States, you hear about maybe someone was cheating or definitely someone was cheating. And we heard the thing in Chicago, I think it was, right, where someone was caught. But
Red-handed. the
yeah,
guy, the
but the
guy.
instances where someone is caught are maybe 1 in 20, and then there's going to be 19 who are suspected um, or even known that they're probably cheating, but we just can't know for sure.
Yeah,
And maybe it takes years, like it took with Rouses, or it took with Feller. It takes like multiple tournaments before you actually get some evidence. With Rouses, it was a photo, and with Feller, it was
a criminal case.
yeah, it was like a conspiracy was uncovered between three different people.
Yeah,
So yeah, it can take a lot of time to actually get hard evidence. And one of the issues is that cheating is rarely taken seriously unless there's like concrete physical evidence, which once there is, then people, of course, they say, yeah, that person was cheating. But short of concrete evidence, it's usually the level of skepticism is extremely high. It's remarkably high, and it shouldn't be. At least like it should be. I think clear that if there's a possibility of cheating, then we don't. You shouldn't assume that it happens, but you should definitely consider the possibility strongly.
yeah,
But usually there's like a level of skepticism that's so high that it's only really broken by physical evidence.
yeah.
And
And
I
that's
think that
very
like
hard to get.
yeah, that's really hard. Even in over the board chess, because you have to first you have to know who to look for. Like let's say you have a tournament of 300 people playing, uh, and let's say any one of them is equally likely to cheat. Maybe that's not the case, but let's just assume that. So first you would have to look for in either an unusual result in time before the tournament's over, or something suspicious going on. And then after you see that, then you have to follow someone around, but they're probably doing it privately, so you have to invade their privacy, which is kind of an ethical question. And yeah, and then you might be wrong, or you might not have found anything, and you don't even know if you were right or wrong. So okay, in the case of like the Chicago person, it was very easy because the person had it in his lap, which is a
What an idiot.
which is a
how,
great way
how can
to
you do that? Oh my
yeah to
goodness.
ensure that you never can defend yourself because you at least if you go inside a bathroom stall like you people can't see what you're doing in there
But
you
this
know
guy actually went a whole year probably doing that because he went from something along the lines of 1,000 to like close to 2,000 in the span of a year. And the guy apparently barely could play chess, barely could. Oh, okay, obviously he can make the moves, but um, maybe his real level was around 1,200. And he was performing at like 1,900, 2,000 for
yeah
like a
there's
year.
nothing suspicious there.
Yeah,
um
crazy.
well one issue with like the US Opens is that the category prizes are very significant. So you'll have like under 1,400, maybe 2 grand, or sometimes more. It's
Yep.
like I don't know the World Open under 1,600, maybe it's like 10 grand or something.
I mean, you remember the millionaire chess, yeah? Under
Yeah,
1,800,
there it was like
40K.
40,000 for yeah. I was watching in 2015 the final. I think I just finished my game against Wesley. We drew, and I think I got fifth place and like $8,000. And then I'm watching these under 1,500 or 1,400 players play for 40 grand in some time scramble. I'm thinking this is beautiful. My game against Wesley never made it to databases because it wasn't on a DGT board. But these players are on live broadcast playing for 40 grand,
The
and
big
all their
final.
pieces are.
The big final. Yes.
But
Well,
yeah,
there
I
were.
think you were also there watching, weren't you? It
Oh,
was
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
we
Yeah,
were all
yeah.
in the same hotel room. I forget. It was like probably eight of us or something.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Uh,
I mean, well, the problem was that with that particular case, it was they're all not only cheating and cheating with phones and with Stockfish. I guess it wasn't as mainstream as it is right now, but there were some sandbagging problems. Like some people
oh,
were
that's it.
losing rating on purpose 2 months or like 3 months before the event, lost like 400 rating points, and they were playing under 1,800 when their actual strength was around 2,200. So that was a huge problem with that one.
Yeah. No, I actually think like very strongly. I know people will see this as elitist, but I think the category prizes are just bullshit. Look, if you're a casual enjoyer of something, that's great. But you can't be like a casual enjoyer and also make it your career. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's like you wouldn't see this in another sport. It's like you have you have LeBron, and then you have a guy who just like started playing basketball a year ago, and they're playing for the same amount of money. It's which is actually what happens in these like open tournaments. Okay, maybe not with LeBron, but pick a basketball player who's like a
No,
26,
I
50
understand. I
grandmaster.
understand the idea. Yeah,
Like you understand my
it's
point.
a
It
good
just doesn't
metaphor.
doesn't occur. And in chess especially, where like we base these things on ratings and where there are chess engines that can like facilitate in cheating. So you have sandbagging, you have cheating, and I know they're trying to encourage weaker players to play their open so that they'll pay the entry fee, and yeah, they're incentivizing that. It's a business model, but it's a not a very good business model from the point of view of like the integrity of the event, in my opinion.
Completely
But this
agree.
has been going on for decades, so it's not a new thing.
No, no, completely agree. I think it just makes sense that, you know, if you just started playing as a hobby, you cannot really make it into a career, and that's a very succinct and very good way to put it.